Simon, you've taken us right to it, and that is the developing story. Scott Parker has been sacked by Bournemouth after just 4 Premier League games, and those games included a run of Arsenal, Manchester City and Liverpool. Now, what we'll do is this at this stage, Trevor. I'm going to put it out there. Was the writing not on the wall after he was publicly pushing the board for more help this summer? What we know, after the final pre-season game that they had, Bournemouth, this was around July 30-31, Scott was saying, we're way short of where we need to be. That's just very clear. We need to work out whether we want to give ourselves a chance of being competitive this year. At the moment, this is not the case. And he goes on. He said, we worked tirelessly last year. The staff, the players, the fans, everyone worked tirelessly to get where we are. Like any evolution, when you're going up to another stratosphere of levels, everyone just needs a bit of help now. So in other words, he was saying, I don't have the players that I need to make a fist of it in the Premier League this season. So how advisable was it? And then maybe he was proved right, because they go to Anfield at the weekend and they get thumped 9-0, and he kept that theme going.
Yep.
Probably not surprised too much, to be honest with you, in the sense of the levels that we're playing against here, and the quality is just far greater than what we have at this present moment in time at our disposal, really. While, of course, it's not me making an excuse, because there's some goals in that game which were down to our own doing. In terms of the set play, goals were really poor, and we could do something about that. But at this present moment in time, I feel sorry for the fans. I feel sorry for the players, to be honest with you, because at this moment we're just a little bit under-equipped at this level from where we've come from for what we have, and it's been proved a bit difficult.
So, Trevor, very keen to get your view on this. Before we do that, I mentioned Souness. He was with us yesterday, and this was obviously pre the decision this morning to sack him, the announcement to sack him. This is what Souness said.
I don't think he's been supported by the board at Bournemouth. That's my hometown club. I look at the players that have come in. It's not enough to survive in the Premier League. Now, if the board have made that decision, maybe that should have been explained to Scott before he even took the job.
What you saying? Maybe if the members of the board are listening this morning, do something for Parker, because you're in for a few more 9-0.
So how can you do it now? The clock's ticking now.
So that was Souness yesterday. Yeah. Now we know this morning, 24 hours later, Gary O'Neill will take interim charge of Bournemouth and will be assisted by Sean Cooper and Tommy Elphick. Do you echo what Souness was saying then, Trev?
I do, in a certain extent, because I don't think he's been given the funds that he needs to compete. I think that was the rallying cry after Real Sociedad game pre-season. I think we were all surprised they got the result against Aston Villa, first game of the season, 2-0, great home win. But then you've seen the subsequent performances against 3 teams you'd expect them to lose against. But I think it was the manner in which they lost against Liverpool, 9-0. Listen, he said he wasn't surprised that they're struggling. I think he's got empathy for the team, because there is some good lads in that team, but they need strength to that squad. And you look at the money that they've spent or not spent, as the case may be. There's only Leicester who spent less, and they spent 0.
But you not think Parker's been too mouthy here and he's landed himself in trouble? But
I think he's done that on purpose, because I think he'd rather be honest and have his integrity as a professional and say it how it is, because he has said this to the board. He has said we need players. It's obviously fallen on deaf ears, and rather than just picking up his wages and doing a job that he's never going to be able to succeed in, he'd rather come out and let the fans know, let the players know he's fighting their corner and saying, we need better players, we need more players, this is not happening, we're not going to be competitive. And he's accepting that he's probably going to get the sack. I respect him for that.
Well, it's ultimately cost him. The owner of Bournemouth, Maxime Demon, I don't know him, he's quite low-key, but maybe the key line in here, Simon, in the statement, in order for us to keep progressing as a team and a club as a whole, it's unconditional that we're aligned in our strategy to run the club sustainably. We must show belief and respect for one another. So does he view Parker's previous comments as disrespectful?
Look, if you don't want to work for somebody and you're not comfortable with what they've told you, because I'm pretty sure, because I'm the one person in the room who can speak to what owners do operate and how they do operate. Most owners will try to do their very level best. I agree there could be more investment in this situation, but I also believe that the Bournemouth owners would have told Scott Parker this. And Scott Parker has made a decision based upon what he thinks he's entitled to, what's what his reputation will suffer from if Bournemouth were to be relegated by suggesting that he feels the necessity to keep speaking in the media. It's nothing to do with integrity. Protecting your position is nothing to do with integrity. If you don't want to work for somebody, you resign and walk away and say, I'm not prepared to accept those circumstances. In the football world, what you've got is owners of football clubs. They are the guys that you work for. You on the training ground have had unfettered control over who you pick, what happens on your training ground, and what you do and don't say to your staff. But you end up working for someone else. And if someone else discusses with you, that's the budget, and that's the budget we've got, and whether you like it or not, that's the budget we've got, because I'm the owner of this football club, and I'm looking at the bigger picture for both myself as an owner and for the football club, full stop. Scott Parker has not been sacked because they got beat 9-0 by Liverpool. The owners of Bournemouth are not that opaque. Liverpool are a far better side that spend £75 million on centre-backs. Scott Parker has been sacked. As I suggested yesterday, there was a possibility coming down the road because he's opened his mouth and talked about things that possibly...
But he's been honest.
Well, he's been honest. He's been honest to an extent because ultimately people aren't blind.
No, he's been honest.
No, he's been honest because
Not trying to he's being honest.
No, the honesty you want from somebody, if you're the owner of the football club, the loyalty you respect is the person that pays your wages. And what you expect them to do is say, this is challenging. But what we're going to do is we're going to make the best fist of it. We're going to have the best go. And the club will do its very level best supporters given the model that the club has. What you don't want to hear from your manager is a constant carping, similar to probably what he did at Fulham, which is probably the reasons why he found himself at odds at Fulham. And what you've got is this sense of entitlement from football managers that somehow have read a memo that they actually run football clubs as a business. You're a manager like you're the manager in every other business. Your task is to manage your charges. And your relationship with your owner is dependent upon if you agree with your owner or your owner agrees with you, you agree a strategy. I guarantee you, as sure as day follows night, he would have been told that we aren't going to go after this particular transfer market. We aren't going to spend a lot of money. And he decided to take it.
So what's the point in getting promoted?
Why not try and look to get free?
Why don't you ask West Bromwich Albion why they built a club over a period of time that gave them an opportunity to go up and down and build some sustainability? What is the purpose of being promoted is to give yourself an opportunity. I didn't hear Neil Warnock when Cardiff went up and spent 2 and 6.
You battered Norwich for being a yo-yo club.
I battered Norwich for making bad decisions.
For their approach.
I didn't
Nobody wants to go up and down and up and down.
Hold on, first of all, I didn't do that. What I said was that they were really, really poor, and if I was a Norwich fan when they were getting ridiculed by their own fans, I'd ridicule them as well, because some of those players on that pitch that were bought and actually paid for, and Norwich spent 50 or 60 million quid, were scandalous.
So if you were Maxim Demon, would you have sacked...
Yes.
By the sounds of...
Yes.
You would have sacked Parker?
Sacked him. I would have told him in the pre-season, listen, I know it's not ideal. This is how we're going to run this football club. You have a choice. If you go now, guess who's going to cop it? Me. I'm going to cop it because ultimately people are going to see you as the all-conquering hero. But I'm prepared to take that risk because I'm going to run this football club. I'm going to give you some money in the summer. I might give you a little bit more in January, but we're not going to break the bank. We're not going to spend a lot of money.
How kind of them? They get 150 million to go up.
And where do you think that's bleeding all gone then? What do you think's happened to the players' salaries? I guarantee you, if Bournemouth are lucky, they might nick a profit out of this to some extent. But the bottom line is...
It's about how ambitious were they? How ambitious are they?
Yes.
That's agreed. That should be the bottom line, Simon, surely.
Agreed, and that's agreed, that level of ambition.
Would you object to Parker coming to you and say, Mr. Roner, we might have a problem here?
I don't agree.
I don't need to spend more.
I don't object at all. Come and speak to me as much as you want, because you work for me. And when we walk out of this room, we retain a degree of loyalty towards one another, right? And ultimately, I will not be out there undermining your position because you got beat 9-0, because I know that the hand I've dealt you. What you don't do is you go look after yourself. I was talking to Souness this morning about it, saying to him, this is the consequences. Integrity. What integrity did he got? He got himself sacked. This wasn't about integrity. This was about Scott Parker, like every other football manager, and I've had loads of them, protecting their position. If you've sat there... Here's the conflict. Is the contrast to that. If the owner has told him something different, then he has every right.
Which we don't know.
I'm pretty confident, having had managers do precisely the same thing to me, having had clear, unequivocal conversations with them where they've agreed with what I'm saying, understood it, walked out the door and done something completely bleeding different because it suits their agenda. Now, he is right to ask for a bit more investment, but that conversation needed to have been had and won with the owner. And if it was lost, you have a tacit acceptance of it and get on with it, or you put your papers in and walk away and say, I can't work in these conditions.
So what do we do
but you
here
won't do that, will
For
you?
Maxim Demon, read Simon Jordan.
Read any sensible owner. Football managers do not run football clubs. They run football teams, and there's too much of it.
It's ego, isn't it? It's either him or me.
No,
It's him or me.
In any business, if your CEO or your manager comes out and speaks out against the status quo, against what do you think is going to happen? In football, you get away with it for a period of time. But I'm not suggesting this is the Mill Baron Bob Lord. Everybody has to tug their forelock. But there's
a bit of that.
No, there is a culture of respect.
Know your place.
Okay.
Know your place.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If one of his players come out, Scott Parker's players come out and said in the press, I hate the way Scott Parker's making me play. I don't think I've been given enough game time. There'd be uproar. Scott Parker would sanction him. He'd want him out of the team. He'd send him to play with the 23s. So why does Scott Parker or a football manager have to operate to a different set of standards when he's managing up?
He doesn't. He's just being honest. And like, listen, the game against Liverpool. Do you think Scott Parker, known Scott Parker as I do, as a really good professional as a player? I think he's shown great way of behaving and managing since he's gone into management. He's won a couple of promotions.
Says who? He walked out of Fulham, fell out with Fulham ownership.
I'm giving you my opinion.
Out with the Bournemouth
I'm
ownership.
giving you my opinion, Simon.
As a player.
Finish it, Trevor. Finish your sentence.
So going back into it, so do you think after that game it hurt him? And do you actually feel?
Well, yeah, I mean, it would.
I think it
of
hurt
course
everybody.
Of course it would.
But do you actually feel Maxim Denham has been down the training ground and seen how lacking that team is?
Do you think that when
He wouldn't have been because, like Simon, he'd never go down the training ground.
When the fit hits the shan, right, and people have got to write checks out, right? Do you think he gets to feel? Do you think Scott Parker gets to feel the pain of an owner that's bankrolling a football club that had a second parachute payment that probably lost a fortune last year in the Championship? Did you feel the owner's pain then? No, because that's not your responsibility. It's the owner's responsibility. He's got to do his job, and Parker's got to do his, and everyone should know their place.
Where do our sympathies lie then this morning? Do we have any degree of sympathy for Scott Parker? Because he has been saying, with what we've done in the market, it's not good enough. We will struggle. Well, Maxim Denham took a poor view of that, and he has sacked Scott Parker. Who's right and who's wrong? Any winners in this? 03717 223344
Sean Dyche.
810 810 89.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.